Here. This is where we buried our son. Ademola Babatunda. He died 5 years ago. Murdered because of a girl he loved, a girl named Amara. Amara's mouth fell open. Her legs wobbled. Slowly, she stepped forward and crouched down in front of the headstone. The name was clear. The date of death was real. Ademola Babatunda. Born 1986. Died 2019. Gone too soon. Forever in our hearts. No, no. No, this is not possible. Amara whispered, her voice almost gone. This must be a mistake. I live with him. We eat together. Sleep together. He's the father of my children. The old man placed a hand on her shoulder. I don't know what this means, my daughter. But the man in that picture is our son. And he has been dead for 5 years. Amara's heart slammed against her chest. She clutched her children tightly and stared at the grave, her mind racing. Who did I marry? Who have I been living with all these years?
The news of Amara's scholarship spread through the town like wildfire. Everyone was talking about it. From the women at the local market to the bus drivers on the street, everyone smiled when they heard her name. That's the girl who made us proud, they would say. Even people who had never met her felt proud just to be from the same town. Amara's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Okachukwu, could hardly believe it. For years, they had done everything they could to give their only daughter a good life. Her father was a tailor, sitting day and night behind his sewing machine. Her mother sold vegetables by the roadside, working under the hot sun. Sometimes they ate only once a day so Amara could eat and go to school. So when the scholarship letter came, it felt like a reward from heaven. Amara couldn't stop smiling. She was happy not just for herself, but for her parents. I promise I won't let you down, she said, hugging them tight. The next Monday, she wore her neat white socks and brown school sandals and started her first day at Elite Girls Secondary School, the best in the whole state. The school looked like a palace to her. Big gates, tall buildings, green lawns, and teachers who wore smart clothes and spoke perfect English. But something strange happened on that first day. As Amara walked into her new classroom, all eyes turned to her. Some girls whispered to each other and giggled. Others rolled their eyes. One girl with shiny braids and expensive shoes stood up and said loudly, "She's the scholarship girl." Class went quiet. Amara's heart beat fast. She felt a little out of place. Her bag was old. Her books were second-hand. But she remembered what her father always said. Your value is not in your clothes, but in your mind. She took a deep breath, held her head high and smiled. Good morning, class, she said softly. My name is Amara. And just like that, a new chapter of her life began, with light in her heart and courage in her eyes. Amara studied every day, both during the day and at night. While many of her classmates played games or watched cartoons, Amara was always with her books. She didn't just read to pass, she read to understand. That's why she never failed any subject. No matter how hard the exam was, she always came first in her class of 47 students, boys and girls included. Her teachers noticed how smart and serious she was. One day, during morning assembly, the principal called her out and gave her a new title. From today, Amara will be the senior prefect of this school, he announced. The students clapped, but even more, they respected her. It was a big responsibility, but Amara didn't complain. She only worked harder. Even though she had many duties as senior prefect, keeping order, helping teachers, and making sure students followed school rules, Amara never allowed her work to affect her studies. In fact, she became even more focused. What made her different was that she didn't keep her knowledge to herself. She would often stay back after classes to help her classmates with difficult subjects. I want all of us to do well, she would say with a smile. One hot afternoon, while they were solving a tricky math question, a junior student came to her classroom door. Senior Amara, the principal is calling you, the small boy said. Everyone in the class turned to look at her. Did she do something wrong? Someone whispered. Or maybe they want to give her another award. Another asked. Amara was surprised. She hadn't done anything wrong that she could remember. Still, she stood up, smoothed her uniform, and walked out quietly. Her heart beat fast as she walked through the school hallway. When she entered the principal's office, she was even more surprised. 3 tall, handsome Nigerian men were sitting with the principal. They wore black suits and shiny shoes. They looked like rich businessmen or people who worked with the government. The room was quiet as they turned to look at her. Amara bent her knees respectfully and greeted, "Good afternoon, sir." The men looked at her closely. One of them even smiled. But Amara was confused. Who were these men? Why were they here? And what did they want with her? One of the men looked up at Amara with a warm smile and said, "Amara, the governor has heard so much about your excellent performance in school. He is very proud of you. So, he sent us to give you this special parcel as a reward for your hard work." He stretched out a neat white box wrapped with a golden ribbon. Amara's eyes widened as she collected it with both hands. Her heart was beating fast, not because she was scared, but because she had never felt so honored in her life. "Thank you, sir," she said softly, almost in a whisper. She bent slightly again in respect and held the parcel tightly to her chest. The men nodded at the principal, stood up, and walked out of the office. The principal looked at Amara with a proud smile. "Go back to your class, Amara. You've made us all proud." With a wide smile on her face and her eyes shining with excitement, Amara walked out of the office. As soon as she got outside, she broke into a run. She ran like someone who had just won a big prize. She didn't even care about the hot sun above her head or the dust from the ground. She burst into her classroom, panting and holding the parcel to her chest like a treasure. Everyone in the class stood up at once, surprised by her excitement. "What happened?" one student asked. "Why are you running?" another said. Amara stood at the front of the class, still catching her breath. Her cheeks were red, her eyes bright. She slowly raised the box in her hand, showing it to everyone. This is from the governor," she said, almost shouting. "He sent it to me for doing well in school." The classroom exploded with noise. Some clapped, some shouted, and some just stood there with their mouths open. No one in their school had ever received something directly from the governor before. Amara had made history. But deep in the crowd, one girl was not smiling. Her name was Zainab. She stared at Amara without blinking. And in her heart, something dark was growing. Something that didn't look like happiness. Their final examination came by and Amara did excellently well, and without delay got admission into the university to study medicine. Her parents were filled with joy the day Amara got her admission letter. Their dream was coming true, to see their only daughter become a medical doctor. Her father hugged her tightly while her mother cried tears of happiness. They danced around their small living room, singing praises and calling friends to share the good news. When Amara arrived at the university, everything felt new and strange. She was in a new world. The buildings were big. The crowd was much. Her roommates already had friends and family helping them, but Amara carried her own bags, arranged her bed, and found her way around campus alone. It wasn't easy, but she smiled through the fear. The work in school was hard. Medicine was not a joke. Many students gave up or struggled, but Amara made a promise to herself that she would not fail. She set a goal. "I must be the best in my department." She stuck the words on her wall and looked at them every morning. Amara studied day and night. She was always in the library, reading even when others were sleeping. She missed parties, avoided gossip, and stayed focused. Some students laughed at her. Others didn't understand why she worked so hard. But Amara knew where she was going. When final exams came, some students cried. Some left questions unanswered. Many said the exam was too hard. But Amara stayed calm. She smiled after each paper, knowing she had given it her best. And then the day came. The day of graduation. The large hall was filled with proud parents, flashing cameras, and bright colors. Amara's name was called as the best graduating student in the Department of Medicine. She walked slowly up to the podium, dressed in her shining navy blue graduation gown. Her heart was beating fast, but her face carried a calm smile. She looked at the crowd and spotted her parents crying in the audience. She picked up the microphone and began to speak. "I am here today, not because I am better than anyone, but because I never gave up." The crowd clapped loudly. She smiled again, but deep inside her she knew this was only the beginning. Amara got a job at one of the biggest government hospitals in the city. She couldn't believe it. She was offered the position of a senior doctor. With the job came a brand new official car, a fully furnished 2-bedroom apartment, and a beautiful office that smelled of fresh paint and hope. Her parents were overjoyed. They visited her new place, touching the furniture like it was gold. Her mother prayed aloud, thanking God for blessing her daughter. Her father smiled quietly, his heart full of pride. "You've made us proud, Amara," he whispered. Each day at work, Amara poured her heart into her patients. She was gentle, kind, and full of wisdom. Everyone at the hospital, from the cleaners to the top doctors, respected her. She always greeted everyone, no matter how busy she was. One quiet evening, as Amara was driving home from work, she sang softly along with the music playing in her car. The streets were calm. The sun was setting, painting the sky with orange and gold. Then suddenly her smile vanished. She saw a man thrown into the air, hit by a speeding car that didn't stop. The driver zoomed off, disappearing into the night. The man lay lifeless on the road. Without thinking twice, Amara stopped her car and jumped out. A few people had gathered already, some shouting, some just watching. "Help me carry him," she cried. With the help of 2 young boys, they lifted the injured man into the back seat of her car. Blood stained on his shirt. His breathing was faint. His eyes were half closed. Amara drove like never before, running past red lights and honking at slow cars. She shouted on the phone to alert the emergency team before arriving. As she rushed into the emergency ward, nurses and doctors sprang into action. They placed an oxygen mask over his face and began working on him immediately. One nurse shouted, "Pulse is dropping." Another brought out an injection. Amara stood by, watching them try to save him. Her hands shook. She didn't know why, but something about this man made her feel uneasy. Like he was connected to her future in a way she couldn't yet understand. Then the nurse said something that made Amara freeze. "Doctor, please come closer. You might want to see this." Amara stepped forward, and what she saw made her heart skip a beat. Amara stood beside the emergency room bed, watching as the nurses cleaned the man's wounds. She had seen accidents before, but something about this one felt different. Her eyes moved carefully across his body. Then she saw it. Just above his stomach, the swelling looked unusual. She gently pressed around the area and noticed the skin had changed color. It was dark and firm. "Doctor, there's internal bleeding," one of the nurses said quickly. Amara nodded. "No, this is more than that. The blood is not flowing properly. It looks clotted." She reached for gloves and gently touched the area again, trying not to cause more pain. The man was unconscious, but his breathing was slow. Amara's eyes grew wide. She turned to the team. "We need to run a scan now. I think the blood has clotted inside. And check his chest. His breathing isn't even. Something's wrong with his ribs too." One of the junior doctors rushed over with a portable scanning device. As the screen came on, everyone stared. The image showed a dark mass around the lower ribs and chest area. "His 3rd rib is fractured," the junior doctor said, looking at Amara. Amara gasped lightly. This was serious. A broken rib could pierce an organ if they didn't act fast. "We can't waste time. Prepare the surgical team." "I'll handle this one myself," she said firmly. Even though it had been a long day, Amara's hands didn't shake. Her heart raced, but not out of fear. Something about this man pulled her attention deeper than usual. She didn't know why yet, but she knew she had to save him. As they wheeled him into surgery, Amara whispered under her breath, "Who are you, and why does it feel like I've met you before?" He couldn't speak as he had lost so much strength. 2 days after the operation, Dr. Amara stood beside his bed, monitoring his recovery. His breathing was steady, and his color had returned to a healthy glow. She checked his vitals before looking at him with a soft smile. "What is your name and where are you from?" she asked kindly, her voice professional yet warm. His eyes fluttered open at the sound of her voice. He smiled faintly, the pain still visible in his face but softened by the kindness of the doctor. "Ademola. I'm from Osun State," he said, his voice hoarse but clear. Dr. Amara nodded, making quick notes on his chart. "Mr. Ademola, where are your family members? I need to contact them to let them know you're here in the hospital." Ademola's expression shifted slightly, and for a moment, he looked distant. He hesitated before responding. I don't have anyone here. I'm alone in the city." Dr. Amara felt a twinge of sympathy in her chest. She could tell he was trying to remain strong, but his words carried a quiet sadness. "I'm sorry to hear that," she said softly. "But you're not alone here. We'll take care of you." As Dr. Amara went over his medical chart and checked the equipment around him, her gaze kept drifting back to his face. He had a quiet strength about him, and though he had been through so much pain, there was a gentle, almost comforting energy about him. His features were sharp yet kind, his eyes deep but warm. Dr. Amara couldn't help but notice how handsome he was. His smile, though faint, had a certain charm that tugged at her heart. She quickly shook her head, reminding herself that her focus was on his recovery, not anything else. But as she observed him, she found herself thinking more and more about him. "I'll make sure you're well taken care of," she said, trying to keep her tone professional, though she could feel the flutter in her chest whenever she looked at him. She quickly made some more notes on his chart, pushing aside any distracting thoughts. But something inside her told her that this wasn't the last time she'd be seeing him. She stood up, ready to leave but paused. "I'll check on you again soon," she said with a smile, looking at him one more time before heading for the door. As she walked out of the room, Dr. Amara couldn't shake the feeling that their meeting wasn't just a coincidence. Something about Ademola felt important, and she wasn't sure why. Mr. Ademola sat quietly on the hospital bed, his back resting against the pillow as he stared blankly at the wall in front of him. His arm, still wrapped in bandages, rested on his lap while his other hand held the discharge paper loosely. The doctor had cleared him to go home that morning, but there was a deep worry in his eyes. He hadn't moved from the bed for hours. Dr. Amara sat beside him, her white coat neatly pressed, a pen clipped to the front pocket. She watched him closely, concern written all over her face. She had noticed the change in his mood the moment the nurse mentioned his discharge. There was no excitement or relief on his face, only silence and a quiet frown. "You're not saying anything," she said gently, breaking the silence. Ademola slowly turned to look at her, his eyes soft but heavy. "Where do I go from here?" he asked, his voice low. Amara blinked. She had suspected something like this, but hearing it confirmed still tugged at her heart. "You mean you don't have anyone at all? No friend? No relative in the city?" He gave a tired smile, the kind that held more pain than joy. "I came to Maiduguri for work, but things didn't go as planned. I lost my job. And then I lost the little room I was managing to stay. I was already on the street when that driver hit me." Her heart sank. She looked at him, really looked at him, and all she saw was a young man trying to survive against so much. For someone she had only just met, she felt so drawn to him. Maybe it was his calmness despite the chaos, or maybe it was the way he never once complained about the pain. "You can't go back to the streets, not like this," she said firmly. He looked down, ashamed. "I'll manage. I will do something about that." She reached out gently, placing her hand over his. "No, not this time. You've just come out of a serious surgery. Your rib is still healing. You need rest, proper meals, safety. Please let me help." Ademola looked up at her. His lips parted slightly in shock. "You've already done more than I could ever repay," he whispered. Amara shook her head. "This is not about repayment. It's about doing what's right. I don't know why, but I feel like I was meant to find you that night. Maybe this is where our stories begin. A soft silence filled the hospital room. Then, for the first time in days, Ademola allowed a real smile to escape his lips. "Thank you," he whispered. She nodded slowly, a gentle smile of her own forming. "You're welcome, Mr. Ademola. You're not alone anymore." During her lunch break that afternoon, Dr. Amara walked into Ademola's room holding her car keys and a soft smile. Ademola, still sitting on the hospital bed, looked up at her with a tired expression. His face had lost some of the pain from the past days, but his eyes still held quiet sadness. "You're still here," she said, standing beside him. "You haven't even touched the pap and bread the nurse brought." Ademola gave a weak chuckle. "I'm not really hungry. Maybe I don't feel like eating." Amara smiled gently. "Then let's get out of here for a few hours." He blinked. "What do you mean?" "I'm taking you to my home," she said, her tone soft but firm. "You need real food, fresh air, a comfortable bed. You can rest better there while you recover. I've arranged for the hospital to know you're under my supervision, so don't worry." Ademola sat up straighter, a bit stunned. You're home?" "Yes," Amara said as she helped him up carefully. "You saved your own life by surviving that accident. Now let someone else take care of you for a little while." He hesitated, but when she extended her hand to him with that same calm reassurance she always had, he took it. They got into her car, a small silver SUV, and she drove gently, watching him now and then from the corner of her eye. He leaned back in the seat, looking out the window, still trying to process the kindness that was unfolding before him. Soon they arrived at a quiet apartment complex surrounded by blooming trees. Her two-bedroom flat was cozy and clean, painted in soft cream and decorated with simple, elegant furniture. It smelled like lavender and home-cooked meals. She led him into the guest room, where the bed was already made and fresh clothes were neatly folded on the side. "You can lie down while I get lunch ready," she said. Ademola stood silently, his eyes wide with disbelief. "You did all this for me?" Amara paused at the door and smiled. "Yes, because no one deserves to suffer alone." In the kitchen, she warmed some jollof rice with chicken, added some ripe plantains, and poured cold juice into a glass. When she brought the tray in, she found him sitting on the bed, looking around the room like someone who hadn't known peace in a long time. She placed the tray in front of him. "Eat, rest, and stop worrying. This is your home now." As Ademola took the first bite, his eyes welled up. He tried to speak but couldn't find the words. Amara just sat beside him and said softly, "You're welcome." The soft morning sun filtered through the curtains, casting a golden hue across the cozy living room. The smell of fresh coffee lingered in the air, mixed with the faint scent of vanilla from a candle Amara had lit earlier. She sat quietly on the cream-colored couch, legs folded beneath her, wearing a simple sky-blue gown. Her hands were wrapped around a warm mug, and her eyes drifted between the book she was reading and the quiet hum of the city outside. It was Saturday, her first full day off in a long time, and for once she allowed herself to slow down. Her home felt peaceful, as if the walls themselves appreciated the silence. Just then, footsteps echoed softly from the hallway. Amara looked up and saw Ademola walking toward her. He looked stronger than the day before, though he still moved with slight caution, careful not to strain his healing ribs. He wore one of the clean shirts she had laid out for him, and his face was freshly washed, his hair neatly brushed. There was a calm, thoughtful look in his eyes. "Good morning," he said gently, standing in front of her. "Morning," Amara replied, a soft smile curling her lips. "You slept well." He nodded. "Better than I have in years, honestly." He stood for a moment, as if unsure of what to say next, then slowly sank into the couch opposite her. He rested his hands on his knees, looked at her and spoke carefully. "Dr. Amara, I don't even know how to say this properly, but thank you." She blinked, surprised by the sudden emotion in his voice. You picked me up off the street when everyone else just stood and watched. You didn't just patch me up and leave me in a ward. You brought me here, gave me a place to sleep, real food to eat, clothes to wear. I can't remember the last time someone treated me like I mattered." Amara lowered her mug to the table, her expression softening. "You do matter, Ademola," she said quietly. "We all do." He looked down at his hands. "It's been a long time since anyone treated me with kindness without wanting something back. I don't know what I did to deserve this, but I'll never forget it." There was a pause. The air between them felt full but not heavy, like something was changing. "You don't owe me anything," Amara said gently. "Sometimes we help people simply because it's the right thing to do. And honestly, I'm glad you're here. Maybe you were meant to walk into my life too." Ademola looked at her then, his eyes meeting hers in a moment that seemed to stretch a little longer than usual. He gave a slow, grateful smile. "Thank you, Amara," he said again, this time more softly. He smiled back. "You're welcome, Ade." And in that quiet room, filled with sunlight and the quiet hum of a Saturday morning, something unspoken began to blossom. Not rushed, not forced, just real. The days passed gently, like soft pages turning in a peaceful book. Ademola was healing fast, and with each passing hour, Amara found herself drawn deeper into his presence. There was something about the way he spoke, the quiet strength in his voice, the way he laughed lightly at her jokes, and the deep gratitude in his eyes when he looked at her. He was not just handsome. He had a calm spirit, one that made Amara feel safe and seen in a way she hadn't felt in years. That Saturday evening, Amara sat in her coxy bedroom, her thoughts chasing each other like restless waves. Her heart was doing that thing again, beating too fast each time she remembered his smile or the way he had called her name that morning with such calm respect. She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at nothing in particular. Her mind was full, and yet she couldn't find peace. She had never believed in love at first sight, but this wasn't just attraction, it was something else. Pull, a connection. Something deeper than she could explain. "I want him," her heart whispered. "I want him to be mine. To be the man I come home to. The man I pray with, laugh with, grow old with." But then came the worry, crawling slowly into her mind like a shadow at sunset. Who is Ademola really is? She knew almost nothing about his past. He had told her he was from Osun State, but she hadn't met any family. No phone calls, no visitors, not even a friend had called to check on him. Every time she asked about his people, he smiled politely and changed the topic. That smile, gentle but guarded, left her curious and uneasy. What if he was hiding something? What if she was falling in love with a stranger? A ghost, or worse, someone dangerous. She bit her lower lip and looked down at her fingers, twisting them nervously in her lap. Her heart wanted to trust him, but her mind begged for answers. She was a doctor, trained to think clearly, to question things that didn't add up. And right now, something about Ademola's story didn't add up. Still, when he smiled at her and said "thank you" in that quiet, sincere tone, all her doubts melted for a while. Could love grow between two people with secrets in between them? She wondered. She closed her eyes and whispered into the silence. "Please God, let me be right about him. I don't want to be wrong with my heart." Because even though she had saved his life, she feared he might end up breaking hers. "Now tell me, if you were Dr. Amara, would you have left Mr. Ademola by the roadside after that reckless driver hit him? Or walked away at the hospital? What would you have done? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. I'm reading them all. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories from African Folktales by Chopi. Because in our next tale, a woman marries a stranger, only to discover his true identity when she visited his hometown. You won't want to miss it.